All right, guys. This week's been pretty busy. Besides doing road calls and call outs, we also been helping some shops. They call us and we go out and we help them. You know, it's spring break around here, so a lot of people took vacation. Plus, a few people were sick. So, you know, we get called in to help, just help them get their customers handled so they can leave. One thing that I've noticed is a lot of these younger techs, one thing that I've always asked, the reason I say this is because we had a couple of complaints, low power, and I always ask the guys. I say, "Hey, man," I said, "Did you check the fuel pressure?" And they'll be like, "Oh yeah, right here. The laptop parameter says it's this." And then I'll tell them, "No, did you put a mechanical gauge on it?" And they're like, "No, we just go by what the laptop says." And I'm like, "No, you have to put a mechanical gauge." So this video is, it's kind of one of those deals where 90% of the time you don't need a mechanical gauge, but that 10% time that you do need it, you're gonna get so screwed over. I mean, you really are. And I have three gauges here that I want to show you. One is the Caterpillar one, and it has a built-in vacuum gauge. And the reason it's not on zero, before anybody says, is because of pressure. It reacts to atmospheric pressure. This is also a vacuum gauge, and it's on zero because it has a stop. And this one I like because it's more detailed. And for those of you that are wondering, anything below 6 inches of vacuum is acceptable. I have a video somewhere in my library. I have a video where they had a truck, they went out and they had lost power, turned off, and I forgot what the complaint was. So anyway, the people decide, hey, you know what, put a new pump, you know, Cummins pump. They always have problems. It's probably the pump, whatever. So they put a pump on it, and it does the same thing. They put a new high pressure pump, and they put then they say, oh well, it's the injectors. So they put injectors on it, and then they put a turbo on it. So it's over 40 grand, easy, not including the labor. Had they simply used this gauge, they would have found their problem, or at least had an idea of what was going on. In my video, you'll see that I have this gauge and I have a pressure gauge like this one, and it basically starts about right here, and then it just starts going. I mean, it gets all the way up here, and you know, it's a restriction. Come to find out, long story short, they had fuel that was contaminated, and somehow or another they got rocks in the siphon tube, and they replaced the fuel tank, and guess what? She was running good. And then of course this gauge was there too, and you can see it. I have it somewhere in my library. If you go look, you'll see it. But anyway, this is my favorite gauge. It's kind of big, it's kind of cumbersome, but regardless of what I'm testing, other than a common rail system will have a low side. Okay, there's a low side, there's a high side. Know where you're plugging into. Most of the test ports that are on, you know, DD13, DD15, Navistar, Mercedes-Benz, Cummins, if it has a test port, it's usually on the low side, you know, because it's there for the testing purposes. But, you know, hey, double check, make sure, verify. Don't guess, you know, verify. But anyway, I think this is something that, at least these are two gauges that you should have. And I think I have another video on a water separator housing where I show the actual nipple where you can connect the siphon tube. And it's part of Cummins diagnosing. For those of you that are, you know, whatever, okay, it's part of diagnosing by Cummins. And anyway, it's also part of diagnosing by Freightliner. But anyway, I thought that was interesting. A lot of these younger technicians don't have mechanical gauges to check fuel pressure. I mean, yeah, they're a little bit expensive. You have to buy, this is the expensive thing right here, the Quick Connect. You know, I don't know, you can buy them on Amazon or whatever, but I think they're like 30, 40 bucks a piece. I don't know. It's been a while. So mechanical gauges, especially this one, I have it because this one right here, we actually plug it into the block like Cummins with oil pressure problems. You go into the oil line, and you can get a mechanical reading and verify. We had one, I'll tell you this quick story. We had one, they kept losing oil pressure, and they thought it was the engine failing. They thought, you know, that the bottom end was going away. And what they had done a cylinder head, and we cut the filter open because we could verify we were having low pressure. Cut the filter open, and we found fabric in the filter, in the gauze. So we dropped the pan. Somehow a rag was left in the engine when they did the head, and it made its way to the oil pan, and it was on the it was on the pickup screen. When it would sit overnight, it would relax, it would move away, or it would allow enough for it to run. But as soon as you started it, and you know, that rag would get around that suction screen, and it would restrict the oil going in, and it would starve the system. Long story short, had to drop, you know, we dropped the pan, pulled the rag, cleaned it, put new filters on it, and away she went. And, you know, hey, you know, the customer didn't have to spend $25,000 or, you know, whatever for an engine, or if he bought a used engine, you know, $8 grand, $9 grand, whatever. But, you know, it was because we verified, and then we went and figured out, you know, what was the root cause of what we were seeing. Mechanical gauges, guys, if you don't have them in your toolbox, just slowly, you know, buy some, you know, you look, just eBay, whatever, keep a lookout. You know, there's always guys that are retiring, and just keep a lookout, and then they turn up. They really do. Thanks for watching.